Hi, my name is Alexis Gotham, and I chose to study ecological architecture for my personal ecology project. I wanted to learn more about the relationship between the built environment and the natural environment, as well as how this can impact society and the species we share the planet with. To provide some context on the building industry, it is responsible for 40% of raw material consumption and about 40% of total energy consumption in the US. It ranks above the transportation and industrial sectors for CO2 emissions, as well as generating more than half of the total landfill waste. A study conducted by the US Environmental Protection Agency shows that North Americans spend 90% of their time indoors. For my project, I chose to illustrate how the built and natural environment interact with each other in some idealistic designs. Some of the major ecological architecture concepts shown throughout my illustrations include preserving the biosphere, reusing buildings, energy and form, energy generation and conservation, as well as material selection. To start out with, I illustrated an important theory in ecological architecture, and that is biophilia. It's the idea that humans have an innate instinct to connect with nature and other forms of life. Through supporting biophilic design, we can use the connection between humans and nature to benefit each other through a mutual relationship. Diving into the main ecological architecture concepts, I first illustrated how the built environment can work to preserve the biosphere. Although the portion of urbanized land is a mere 1% of the world's total surface area, ecologists have concluded that urban growth has a damaging effect on the world's biosphere. Surface changes like pavement, rooftops, and manicured lawns not only remove natural vegetation and habitats, but it also limits natural ecosystem processes. Ecological architects have posited that buildings and roofs can exist as an extension of the ground using green roofs, vertical gardens, and rainwater harvesters. Not only do these living roofs have a positive impact for different species, but they can also be great insulators and decrease a building's space, heating, and cooling needs. Next, I chose to illustrate how the reuse of buildings can help reduce waste and promote a natural connection to the site. Throughout my architecture education, I have been told many times that the most sustainable building is one that is already built. Throughout society, many developers have simply just demolished anything in their way to build something new. However, by reusing existing buildings and recycling building materials, we can maintain the energy that was expended into the production of the materials, as well as minimizing construction waste. Because the building industry is such a large portion of energy usage in the US, I then looked into some ways ecological architecture can promote efficiency through the concept of energy and form. With passive design strategies, a building can lower its energy needs through its form, orientation, and site conditions. These natural concepts of basic forms are used to increase efficiency as well as orientation to harness natural resources. Planning for solar potential, natural ventilation, nearby landforms, and spatial organization can all optimize a building's energy needs. Moving on from the idea of energy efficiency, I also chose to illustrate how ecological architecture can work to create renewable energy and promote conservation. Our country's dependence on fossil fuels is detrimental for the climate, and ecological architects are transitioning buildings to be free of those emissions by using renewable energy sources. Placing photovoltaics, thermal masses, small wind turbines, properly orienting a building, or even utilizing geothermal energy are all ways to reduce a building's dependence on the combustion of fossil fuels. Finally, I looked into the importance material selection has on the environment and how ecological architecture can reduce the impact that buildings have. Through the design process, it is important that the appropriate materials and processes be included. Choosing materials that are local not only helps decrease energy requirements, but it also connects the building and the people to their immediate surroundings and nature. Where it can be used, recycled and natural materials should be utilized, while planning for deconstruction and the life of these resources after the life of the buildings. Now that we know about each of these main ecological architecture concepts, why are they so important? These practices highlight how much the built environment can gain from following processes that the natural environment has already perfected. By implementing these designs into the built environment, not only can we decrease our energy usage and dependence on fossil fuels, but we can create more resilient buildings, habitats, and ecosystems. Each of these concepts and design proposals are important steps to transforming the built environment to better sustain and restore the natural environment. Here is a list of the references that I used. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed the artwork that I made.